Thank you all for being here. I know this is very last minute, but things are changing pretty rapidly, and I know a lot of us, want to stay connected to each other and community, especially at times when we're a little uncertain. Speaking for myself, it's been worrying seeing the city that I love so much come down to this after, and generations and generations of not listening to problems, and these are unfortunately some of the pitfalls of government when it's not being listened to by their constituencies. So I do salute the peaceful protesters out there in the streets, and this is all very unfortunate. But at this time, as a community, as a neighborhood council, as a neighborhood of Studio City, I think we're looking for any way that we can help individually. This town hall, there was some debate whether we should have it or not, whether it would hurt or not. We decided to kind of take the risk and just start a conversation. And with that said, while we're still waiting for our guests, oh, we do have them. So the way this is we want this to kind of work. We have a couple guests who want to speak kind of on different aspects of this. We will then allow our stakeholders to have a question and answer with these people, just to kind of get some information. Fear can be helped with information and communication, and that's right now where we're trying to put our efforts. So with that said, I want to welcome our senior lead officer, Sean Smith, who I will click the button to ask to unmute. And then as soon as he's ready, there he is.
Hello, everybody.
Sean Smith, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you?
Okay, good. The floor is yours, please.
No, you just, of course, it's been very crazy couple months for everybody, and just gone to another thing of, just another unsettling thing for all of us to deal with. Certainly, the LAPD did not think anything like this was going to happen. Coming off of COVID, where everybody's trapped inside their house, and actually people in Studio City are doing probably the best I've seen around as far as like doing where we're supposed to be distance and their mask and everything. And then for this to hit, this got thrown on me. I was because of COVID, senior lead officers from the Valley, if you work the weekend, are getting sent down to Venice Beach. We're not doing our regulars, and we're basically telling everybody social distance, not to have umbrellas and stuff. When I got down there, they sent me to Wilshire, where the protest was going on. It was getting real, very nonviolent at first. When I was there, people were coming by. Of course, they had their concerns. They're shouting out the stuff they want to say. People say peaceful. I have a different opinion of that. When you're telling me that they want to kill me and want me to die, I don't consider that peaceful. But they weren't violent towards me. A lot of people were coming up and shaking my hands, giving me water. So there's that in the crowd too. And I think as a senior lead officer, I don't know, I talk to people very well, and I was there with all senior lead officers. So that was a nice thing. We were just doing traffic control down the street. The crowd then moved towards us, where elements of the crowd started throwing rocks and bottles at us. Broke my sergeant's window, put an explosive device in the window, blew that car up, started taking over another car. Again, rocks and bottles hitting us with sticks, and I got hit in the head multiple times with bricks. And we barely got out of there with our lives, and then and there was people in that crowd helping push other people away so we can get out of there. So like I said, a big mix of everybody, people protesting like they legally have a right to do, and I love America because you can do that. And then there's people just taking advantage of the situation in the middle of that and putting everybody at risk. Blowing up that car, I think it hurt people, the innocent people around that car. I had to have, and I don't know of anybody particular, but it had to have. It was a very violent explosion. So it was just scary thing. Scary for us as officers, scary for the citizens, scary for the people that live around the area. And then the night continued on. So after that night, I mostly have been here in North Hollywood in the Studio City area. I've been lucky to work here and basically stopping looting. I'm up and down Ventura Boulevard, Moore Park, and up to Riverside. That's been my area to cover. We've caught multiple looters trying to loot. We caught a band of about 15 people looting I don't know if you all know where the Foot Locker is on Victory and Whitsett. We caught them. They had guns with them. And then a couple other gang member that I've known for a long time. He actually was clean for a long time, and then he was trying to loot on Ventura Boulevard with his friends. So, but other than that, the business has been coming together though. the stakeholders in this community have been awesome, coming out, supporting the businesses, supporting us, you know, and they have concerns, rightfully so. We've been talking to everybody about it, but you know, it's for us as it's just been one of these things. Nobody's had a day off since it started, and so we're just running on, you know, tiredness. That's all.
Great. So for questions, you know, there should be a little button to raise your hand. I'll call on people in the order that I try to see them for questions for Sean Smith. Sean, thank you so much for doing it. I know you have to go soon, so we'll try to get this in as quickly as possible. So Melanie Winter, go ahead.
Yeah, Sean, thank you. I had a question. You mentioned something about umbrellas in the beginning, and that you were asking them not to have umbrellas. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, on the beach, they didn't want people to have umbrellas. Like I said, I don't make up these rules. They didn't want them to have umbrellas. I believe it's so the helicopters could count how many people were there and try to keep a count on that. That's why my thought process was. That was on the beach. It had nothing to do with the protest. That was just, you know, because I was assigned to Venice Beach that day, and that's where our job was, to ask people not to bring coolers and not to have umbrellas, and that's all I was doing. You know, that's what I've been doing the prior weeks before that, and that was my job that day.
Okay, so the police, the LAPD position is to ask people not to have umbrellas at protests?
No, that had nothing to do with the protest. Okay. I was assigned to Venice Beach and then reassigned that day. My job at Venice Beach during COVID was to ask people not to have umbrellas.
Got it.
Nothing to protest.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Great. Anybody else with a question? Just raise your hand icon. Dun, dun, dun. All right, here we go. Randy, go ahead.
John, thanks for joining us. I think a question probably, at least that I've heard from neighbors, is are there direct threats that are known or anything credible thus far for Studio City? I think if someone goes down the rabbit hole of next door, they have perhaps seen comments suggesting that maybe there would be, aside from the many peaceful protests we've seen here in Studio City, that Studio City was in some sort of imminent danger. So if you could speak to that, that'd be great.
We heard multiple rumors of people, you know, we have officers and civilians assigned to check social media sites and stuff like that. It kept coming up on social media that groups from Antifa were gonna gather people to come up into Studio City and possibly come up into the hills or Sherman Oaks, you know, and along the hills and along basically at the foothills of the north side of the hills and start doing looting up there. That's the rumor that came out. We didn't know if it's disinformation or not. We have every officer, days are canceled. So we had plenty of officers out there. We have not seen any credible threat of that. We don't know if it's just rumor. A rumor did came out that I'm from the town of Upland. A rumor from that same thing came out that they were gonna go to Upland and do stuff. They actually went out there to Upland. Multiple reports of that. So I don't know if it's just misinformation or what was going on, but I know so far in Studio City, North Hollywood area, we have not seen, you know, basically people wanting to go to the houses. It's mostly the businesses that have all been targeted.
Great.
Thank you.
Let's move to Raduca. Go ahead.
So just for clarification, it's not quite clear. Are you saying that the police is responding to rumors on social media, or they are direct channels that you guys responded to information that there might be looting in so-called elite neighborhoods?
We just check everything. If there's a rumor of something, they investigate. You know, we try to be ready for it just in case it becomes real. Do we totally mobilize everything for it? No, we do not do that. We just try to be ready. And as an officer, you just have to be ready for everything that can be thrown at you. And that's what we do. You know, we don't want to be caught by surprise either. So they have, you know, sometimes a social media post will go out there, and I have lots of times that citizens like you all will tell me, by the way, we're hearing this. I bring it to the higher ups and they dissect the information and either, you know, plan for it. They always think about it, you know, always read into it, but it's not always acted upon.
So I'm sorry, I'm still not clear. You do mean that they are more reliable channels through LAPD, right? And through those channels where you was the police directed to supervise these areas, or this is mainly rumors from social media? Because a lot in certain groups in our neighborhood, there is elevated language and that could stir up panic. So I hope police is not guided by the same rumors, right? So I'm assuming there are more.
Some rumors are true. Some rumors are true in life, right? We all know that, right? Sometimes a rumor comes out and it ends up being totally true. So as police, you can't just disregard stuff. You know, you just 100% can't. So we have people looking over all of that stuff. And, you know, do we have enough resources to take care of every rumor out there? Absolutely not, you know, but we just try to plan accordingly and be mindful of there's a rumor going around, whatever the rumor is. So this rumor was that, you know, we're going to target certain areas and stuff. So in our roll calls, we tell the officers, be mindful, this is going on through social media. We don't know if it's true. You know, we don't know anything yet. In fact, you know, like nobody actually knows until it actually happens. So, you know, they've been saying there's going to be planned protests in all these different places that have never happened at all, just regular protests. So I think we just are trying to be prepared for what we can be prepared for. That's all.
Great. Let's move to Lisa Karajian.
Hello, Officer Smith. Thank you.
Hi, Lisa, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Wondering how many police reports were filed in the last couple of days during the protests, and if the looters were deterred by the boarded up storefronts. Did they help? Did they not help? If you could just kind of give me a vague idea of how many police reports were filed.
I do not have those numbers for you at all. I have not been doing my regular job. I've been up and down patrolling, so I don't have access to that. There has been way more calls for burglary suspects there now. That's the call that's been coming out. And so we're responding to those more and more. I think one, there's more burglaries, and the number one is because people are nervous and are calling those reports in more. So there's a lot of false reporting about it. Not that it's on purpose. I think people are just more heightened. And but as far as like the wood barriers boarding up your stores, for one or two people, it could stop. On Foot Locker was boarded up. It had 15 people attacking that store though. So 15 men could easily pry open the wood, which they did, you know, so it's good and bad. Around Studio City, there's a lot of private security though. That's all over, up and down, like Ventura, Moore Park, I see them. So they're being the biggest deterrent. You know, they're out there, they're calling us directly. We're getting in contact with those on a daily basis. So, you know, the businesses that have hired the security have actually done all of you a great service, because they're way more eyes than, you know, the regular public is out there, because you all have to sleep, and they're out there all night long. So that's been very good for us.
Great. Let's Lana.
Hi, Officer Smith. Hi, it's Lana.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi.
I just wanted to let you know that on Monday, I did send an email to your attention because of some things that I had seen on social media. I took some screenshots and just wanted to bring that to your attention. And then I was told, of course, that all the officers were pulled off and reassigned. And so I just wanted to let you know that it was sent by me. It wasn't some kind of just crazy person.
No, I read your emails. I read your emails, and I brought it to the attention of the captain.
Thank you.
And you know, even if I get a lull sometimes, and you know, I'm not bragging about myself, but when I get a lull, instead of sometimes the other officers take a break, I try to get on my emails from you all, try to call you guys back. And lots of times I don't have the time to directly contact you, but for you, like your information, I directly just called the watch commander and say, by the way, this is going out. You have to look into it, and which they did. So,
Thank you so much. I realized I had sent it so quickly.
You guys are great for me.
It didn't have a subject. It just had like a bunch of numbers from the screenshot. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's go to Nancy Kramer.
Thank you, Officer, for being with us tonight.
Hi.
Hi. Do you, today I did not get an alert on my phone for a curfew. So going from this point forward, do you have any expectations of what you're preparing for and what we might want to be preparing for? And is there anything that you see that we could do as a community to better serve the safety and security of our stakeholders?
You know, so the curfew was lifted today. We'll see how that plays out. when things are at the height of things, the curfew does help out a lot, because people that are peaceful out there, they'll obey that, they'll go home or go to work, whatever they're doing. And mostly what's left out there is, the people that are working at nighttime delivering stuff or whatever, and then the looters, so that was helping us. Now that it's gone, today we'll be testing the waters. I just would ask that, especially in Sioux City, a lot of people go out and walk and are vigilant about that, is to keep that up. And I think that the sense of that neighborhood watch really needs to be out there, because we can't be everywhere. And it's great in Sioux City. I have more neighborhood watches than anywhere else in the Valley, but I need that to come back out again. Make sure you're getting in contact with everybody, making sure you know what cars belong on your street, especially at nighttime. Making sure that you just contact each other, be on a text chain with everybody, so everybody knows, hey, everything's fine here. I saw this here, I saw that, and then somebody will say, oh, by the way, this is my Uncle Bob visiting from Oregon, or whatever. But it's those eyes and ears that we have out there from the community, because like policing is not meant for cops to do all the policing. The policing is meant for about 25 to 30% of it done by the police, the rest done by the public. We're supposed to do this together, and that's the only way we can do it. There's never going to be enough cops. New York has 40,000. We have 10,000. We have more than half the population that they do, so we should probably be at 20 if you're looking at what they have. So we need you all, and we that's why we have to communicate like this. And just your eyes and ears out there. You guys know your neighborhoods. You know what, if it's not right, it's not right. And that's what we all need you to join in, and which most of you do. So just keep that up. And like I said, go out for a walk more often and just see what's going on. If you see something, report it. If you see possible looting, 911. That's not a call 187 ask LAPD. I want you guys to call 911 for any possible looting. Anybody with weapons, call 911. If you see a random car driving around, you can call the non-emergency number. But I just want you to be mindful and look out for each other.
Great. Thank you for that. Let's move to Patty.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Patty.
Hi, Sean. I've been listening and hearing and praying that everything goes a little bit smoother for you personally, because I know how hard you work. Thank you. I see Sherry's on the line too from CPAB, and I had asked Sherry to get a statement from Captain Ramirez regarding the budget cuts that are proposed by Mayor Garcetti of 150 million. So of course my first question was, oh my gosh, we're already short officers, but we have a statement. If you'd like me to read it from Captain Ramirez, I can. But basically he says that, he's not expecting it to impact our hiring or staffing of officers in the field, and that he will continue to meet the demands and ensure that we can handle all the services that are required. He's saying that now, and he said that he'll keep us updated as things progress. I can read the whole statement, but it's basically the gist of it. So if anybody has any more questions, Sherry and I and Sean can get back to Captain if you'd like, if you want to email us some questions.
Great. Let's move to Mindy. Yeah, Mindy, you're muted.
Okay, that better?
There you go.
Hi, Sean. Wait, sorry, my neighbor's dog. So I just wanted to mention, and I'm pretty sure I talked to Sean about this, but I just signed up with a bunch of neighbors. We're signing up for post security on the east side of Laurel Canyon. I guess right now the Silver Triangle has their own car with a bunch of families. And so we're working to work with them to put a map together of what the new area would look like. But Sean, I just want to mention, if anybody else wants to be involved with that, I know I've talked to Sherry. She helped, help me figure it out. So that's just something I wanted to mention that's happening, and that I think that goes along with what you're saying, Sean. It's next door is okay, but we have to say something, see something. And I'm hoping if there was a neighborhood watch in that area, or I'm hoping to put it back together. So that's like, I'm on Carpenter right by the school.
And I think that, revisiting, getting together, it's an annual, and with COVID, it's been super hard, of course. Once this is cured up a little bit more, maybe the annual getting together face to face on a more social basis with your neighbors and just reuniting that bond with it is a great way to move forward. Food security, they're great. Like the more people sign up, the more proposals you get. That's what I've pulled from them. I see them all the time. Any extra eyes we can get out there, I highly appreciate it. And I think it's fantastic.
And just thank you for everything.
No, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. We'll go back to Patty. Go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to say that as part of CPAB, we try to help Officer Smith organize neighborhood watch groups. And so we have quite an active one in Landale Square, which is east of Laurel Canyon between Moore Park and the freeway. And we also have post patrol, and it's working great, all of the factors. So I'm happy to help you together your neighborhood watch group. If you send me an email, and chat about that later.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, since we're south, I don't know if I'm muted. We're south of the south. We're by the school. There's that pocket, Laurelwood, Reclaw, Carpenter Court,
Yeah,
Sunshine Terrace.
There is a group at Reclaw that I did a neighborhood watch group.
I think that's what I'm saying. I have to talk to Andrea and Susan. I don't know if it's active. I've lived there for 20 years. I don't think it's active. So I'm going to see if I can get the list back or we can get it active again.
They had one last year. They had one about a year ago, meeting. So they're due for another one.
With Andrea? I think it's Andrea.
Yeah, with Susan and Andrea, yeah.
Okay, I'll check with them and then I'll get back to you guys. But I'd love for the help to get it started. Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Sean,
you, Patty.
Sean, how are you holding up? Because you do such great work for our community and you work with our members so often that we also care about you personally. So
you guys are awesome.
You're getting enough to eat?
Yeah, I worked graveyard hours for 11 years of my career. It's been 6 years since I've done it. Now I'm thinking, why the heck did I do 11 years of it? Because I'm back on it right now, and I remember how crazy it is and not being able to sleep. It's an adjustment, and my family, of course, is very scared with us out there, and I'm trying to, balance that. And but yeah, I'm doing good, and I really appreciate you all asking. I tell you what, Studio City has come out so much. My station every day, and people are dropping off cards here, dropping off food here, and a huge portion of it's always from Studio City, and it makes me look fantastic because my bosses will thank me for it. But it's you guys are so fantastic to us, and we have that great relationship, and I really appreciate you all too. Thank you very much. It makes it so much easier for me.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any last questions for Officer Smith until he's got to run?
It's Sherry. I don't have a question for him. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Sherry. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm in the dark right now. I just wanted to find out how the morale is doing there after last night's announcement from the mayor, about the defunding and stuff, because I know it probably hit you guys like a ton of bricks.
It was a kick in the teeth. That event didn't happen here, and not one LAPD cop I work with, not one thinks that cop was in the right. We all believe he belongs in prison. Honestly, I believe everybody deserves a fair trial, whether there's the Night Stalker or that cop. So, and that's what our justice system's about. But like it sounded like to us, and everybody's talking about it, that we got thrown under the bus here, and I got bricks thrown at my head. People blew up my car. They tried to take my partners out of the car. We didn't deserve any of that. And, I just don't think it's right. And, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but, it seems like the people that, the powers that be are blaming us for stuff. And, we don't think that's appropriate. So,
yeah, we agreed. Yeah, we want you guys to know, because I've gotten a lot of emails and, texts and stuff from the community saying, what can we do? How can we show them, support and everything? So everybody is behind you guys on that.
Awesome.
So just
Thank you,
let
Sherry.
everybody know that we do appreciate you.
No,
and
honestly,
then
I tell
the
you,
other
I've
thing
been in
is
North Hollywood. I've been in North Hollywood since my probation. And if a long time ago, they were talking about breaking up from the city, you all were talking about that. And I said so a long time ago, I would stay with North Hollywood. I consider this its own police department. I love it here. I love the community within Studio City, Sherman Oaks, North Hollywood. I love it here. And the officers feel the same way. We have a lot of officers that have never left, way more than other divisions, because we love the community so much, and the community's so supportive here. And we have officers that leave and come immediately back, and because it's so different other places. And I don't know, it's a sense of, this is my second home. I spend more time here lots of times than I do at my home. So yeah, it's a totally different environment, I think, than other places in the city, and we're very thankful for it.
Yeah, I know, just from my 30 years of volunteering with North Hollywood Division, it's like, you are still here. They all love it. And they do want to come back. The other thing that I just want to say briefly, and it's something that we can talk later, but I got Post Patrol reached out to me, and they want to have a meeting once this is all done with, I don't know, with the captain or with you, about how they can, help a little bit more in our area. And I thought that would be a good thing to kind of like work together with them, and some of the areas that you would like them to patrol, within the parameter of the areas that we already have them signed up for.
Right. That's fantastic. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, so that he's reached out to me. And then the other thing, the other night, we had air support flying over the Silver Triangle. I think it was like Monday night or something like that.
Right.
And of course, I go running out there to check it out. And one of my neighbors said, look at that car. There's a couple people sitting in there. Don't know if that has anything to do with it. Or it was Tuesday night. And so finally the air support left, and then a patrol car came down our street, and asked them what was going on. And they said that there was an attempted robbery of Matthews Jewelers, and then the suspects were over at the coin store there on Laurel Grove and Ventura. And I don't know if they were caught or not, because a couple of a short time afterwards, one of the other neighbors saw these two guys running up Laurel Grove with hoodies on, and they tried to catch them. And then we heard like three, it sounded like gunshots, and it sounded really, really close. So did you hear anything about that?
No gunshots. No gunshots. What we had is, there was an attempt robbery at the jewelry store for sure. Flask liquor store. They had about. He described about 6 gang members, 2 different cars, a dark gray BMW and a red Nissan Versa as a lookout. They pulled an assault rifle on him and tried to rob him. The owner was able to shut the door and not get assaulted any further. And they were seen driving away. They're seen in multiple different divisions trying to do the same type of strong arm robbery. Then, like I said, they're armed what he described as an assault rifle. So that's been a very hairy situation. And that we've had a lot of undercover resources down there. So sometimes maybe if you see some cars driving back and forth that don't belong there, it could be our undercovers as well. We have a lot of them down there, all over. But yeah, we have had some real serious suspects in the area lately.
Yeah, I figured that because it sounded like they were gunshots, and I heard tires squealing away. And then another neighbor said that they heard voices behind them because they back up to the alley, like right around Arts Deli, and they sounded like somebody was breaking into the business. And I said, call 911. I said, I can't do it for you because I'm not there. I don't hear it. I can't.
And that's where Flask is at. So it's right by Arts Deli. So yeah, that's
probably what that was. Okay, well, thank you, and we'll talk. Do you know when you guys will be back? Have you heard any word when you'll be back to being slows again?
I don't know about being slows. They're talking about in the next few days moving us from every day working to working 5 days on, 2 days off, and which I don't know what the hours are going to be. I don't know if they're going to keep me. Half the slows have to work during the mobilization. Half the slows have to work graveyard hours. The other half work the day watch hours. That's just the way it breaks down.
I know you guys are so drained. I mean, I talked to Antonelli the other day, tired as hell. Yeah, anyway, well, probably at our CPAD meeting, I mean, we're going to try to meet with the captain on Tuesday, and then our CPAD meeting the following week. Hopefully we'll see you there, and we'll know a little bit more about the status if the slows will be put back into their regular duties.
Sounds good.
Stay safe. We love you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Raduca.
Hi. So my concern is, although I totally respect the conversation on safety, protest and what we're facing right now is not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of fact that people are protesting a fact, which is basically, people, Black people being killed. So I'm curious, we are describing neighborhoods like Sherman Oaks, Studio City, Encino, and so forth, which are predominantly white. So we have a lot of this conversation as a theoretical conversation, but I'm very curious about our local precinct, and are there any trainings, or because from the mayor's office we received information that this is being disseminated, more information about police sensitivity and all that, but particularly in our precinct, are there any programs like that? And I know I'm putting on top of everything that the police has to handle.
Well, the mayor is very misinformed. We've been doing that for years. We got caught up in the '92 riots with Rodney King and all that stuff. We've been doing that stuff forever. And then during the Rampart scandal, as that happened around 1998 when I started, I was thinking about 97. We've been doing that. We were under federal scrutiny for years, and we did stuff where they found out how many stops we were making, who we were stopping on, and the outcome of that whole study was that it was totally based on the who lived in what area. So like if for me, if I work Studio City more, the more people I'm stopping are white and Hispanic around this area. Now, if I go up towards certain areas in North Hollywood, closer to like Magnolia, Burbank, we have a larger African-American community there. And so they're just finding out basically what the map was of the ethnicity that were living in the area. That's who was getting stopped. That's what that whole study cost the city millions of dollars. So all that stuff they're talking about, I don't know if the mayor's not doing his homework, or he should know this stuff already, but LAPD's been doing that type of stuff. We work cameras. We've worked cameras for a long time. We already talk all the time about de-escalation. We have training about that type of stuff all the time. The fact that he doesn't know that when he's saying that type of stuff makes me think he should do his homework more. Because we already do all that stuff. LAPD's like, we teach other departments the better way to communicate. We teach other departments how to have like senior lead officers, community resource officers. So as soon as this stuff happens, like CPAB, what Sherry is talking about, is generated. So we have the voice of the community telling us what they're thinking. So like, the Orthodox Jewish community was having some issues with stuff. We immediately address that, all the time. Their needs for, hey, by the way, when we're walking on the Sabbath, we're having these issues on these days. We make sure we facilitate as much safe travel as we can. Any community that's having issues like that, LAPD's been at the forefront of doing stuff like that. These other agencies, like my sister's lives in Kentucky. Do these other agencies have the training that they need? Most of them, I would say probably not. A lot of them. There's some communities out there where basically you do weeks, maybe a month of training. You get your gun and badge and go out there. Do I think that's efficient? Absolutely not. But you'll see like up and down California post standards for police officers training is very stringent. I spend tons of boring hours on the computer doing training all the time, repetitive all the time, like constantly, and it's hammered upon us. So, we take a complaint for anything. We had a lady who told me that, who complained about me. She said myself and aliens stole her ovaries, and LAPD took a complaint for that. And then of course, that never happened, but LAPD takes a complaint for anything at all. We take a complaint for. So I know that started all with Chief Parks taking complaints for stuff. Everything you can imagine, we take a complaint for. And like I said, our training is super rigorous and sometimes exhausting how much they ask of us, because we have a lot of call volume, plus you got to do training, and it's nonstop about racial profiling. We get sent to the Rosenthal Center, all this stuff constantly about racial profiling, racial training. Don't do that stuff. That's all the time. Every year, multiple times a year, we talk about that.
Thank
So
you.
like I said, these other agencies, I can't speak for them. I feel sorry for some of these smaller departments that don't have the training I do. I watch cops sometimes, and the stuff they do, it scares me. Like, I can't believe they approach cars a certain way. I can't believe the stuff they do, but lots of it's lack of training, this lack of training all around, especially you can see those 3 officers probably who stood there and didn't do anything. I would say it's a huge lack of training on those 3 officers' part. That one officer, I don't want to get into the mindset of the officer who actually committed the horrible act. I don't know what was going on between them. I'm sure it'll come out. But the other 3, full of lack of training. We always step in with each other. That's why we work in partnerships lots of times. We all have bad days, good days. You have a bad day with your spouse, and then you come into work. It's the job of your partner to say, listen, let me be the contact. Let me talk to somebody that day, because we're all human. And, we see different things throughout the day. So LAPD, I've been very fortunate because we do our best to control that. And that's what I'm saying is when this conversation comes up and you have higher ups in the city saying this stuff about the department, it makes me think they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to stuff. And it makes me very upset because I take pride in the fact that my fellow officers and I go out of our way to communicate whatever we can with the public and to understand their needs and stuff, and try not to do our best not to do any racial profiling or treat any person bad or good, you know. And it drives me nuts, to be honest with you. So, but I totally understand your concern. But I'm telling you, our training is hugely extensive, way more than any place in the country.
Allie, you're next. You're muted.
Unmute.
Hi. Yes, I have two questions. One is very straightforward, and that is, you mentioned body cameras. Are all officers equipped with body cameras from the NoHo PD?
Yes, except detectives don't have them. But like all patrol-based officers, yes, we all have them.
And then my second question is, in a nutshell, let's say you're working with someone who you don't see as a good, you know, righteous, moral cop, police officer. What system do you guys have to help somebody grow that? I mean, when you see someone who is doing things that are not okay, they're not humane, how do you guys deal with that?
You know, it's for us, and you know, there's that culture of a long time ago that you don't say anything like that. That I think was broken right after the '92 riot, especially after Rodney King. It was really broken. For us, you know, we go about like what mental thing is this officer going through? Maybe, you know, they went through the academy, they went through a probationary period, and they passed, which is very strenuous. And so, like, sometimes you just don't know what's going on in somebody's life. You know, I had a partner that was yelling at somebody over and over again for like a week in a row, just getting his temper was. I found out later on his son was diagnosed with cancer. He wasn't telling anybody that. Plus, his mom had just passed away. So, you know, but you know, he was too proud to tell anybody that. He broke down crying to me about it. So we have our behavioral sciences that we send officers to, and that's what it was. You know, they kept it kind of secret for him, and he went there. They took him off the streets for a while, and that's what he needed. He needed that, and so we have a lot of stuff like that. We have counselors that come to our station, our departments, and you know, we quickly we call it dropping a dime on somebody, basically like telling on them in a nice, quiet way, saying this person needs to be talked to, and the watch commanders will pull them aside, talk to them, and if the person resists, they'll order them to go to.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And that's been going on for years. And you know, it happened to me. I've been shot at 3 times, and you know, the last time I thought I was totally good to go back to the streets, and the doctor thought not, and he kept me off another 2 weeks. And so it was another 2 weeks of me talking to a stranger that it was nice because I could tell him stuff and he didn't judge me, and it was a good thing.
Thanks a lot.
Before I take another question, Randy, do we have the other speaker?
Yeah, you know, Jeff just sent me an email. He was on actually with us, but his phone overheated and shut down. So he won't be able to join us. He said he's going to see if he can work something out in the short term, but otherwise he doesn't think he can join us.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure I wasn't.
Yeah, so if we have a couple more questions for Sean.
We do.
I'll give a brief word to what his position was, and then we'll see if there's any interest from the greater group to maybe have another town hall, whether it's in a few days or a week, 2 weeks or whatever, to kind of talk about the other side of this. But I see there's a couple more hands up for Sean. So Sean, if you have time for maybe a couple more questions, we can roll with that.
Okay, so let's go ahead and Lana.
Hi, Officer Smith. I would just like to ask if you might remember the police chief at the time. I don't know if you were actually in California then after those riots, but I vaguely remember I was new here at some juncture when it was big news that the training for officers was going to be instituted. This was a big thing, and I'm having a hard time remembering who the police chief was at that time, but I vaguely remember.
1992, it was Chief Gates. And so quickly after that, he stepped down from being chief. And a lot of people don't know, I mean, there's a little history about that time. Mayor Bradley and Chief Gates were academy classmates. Mayor Bradley was an LAPD officer. They didn't like each other. You know, there's a little history about that side of stuff. So they would go at each other about stuff, you know, and I was in high school. So, I mean, that's the history I've learned throughout stuff. But that, you know, you not having a mayor and having a chief that don't like each other, you know, on a personal level did not help. But after that, yeah, there was huge sweeps. My training officers all went through the academy at certain times, and then training right after the riots. And they said things had changed a lot after that, you know, and for the better. But the problem was too, though, that they let the department get down to about 6,000 officers for a huge population, 6 to 5,000, which is, you know, it scares me with these budget cuts. It's not so much about any extra stuff we're doing or overtime. It's just the hiring. So like you all know is that we don't just hire 500 people every year. That's not how it works. So like there's years that we don't hire anybody, multiple years they don't hire anybody. So if you can imagine, there's big groups. Like when I came on, my academy class is 100 people. That's a month. So the next month, 100, next month, 100. So that year we hired a few thousand, like almost 2,000 people got hired that year. We're all coming up for retirement soon. We don't have, if we don't have mass hiring real soon, the mayor got us 2028 Olympics. It is estimated that on a daily basis, 13,000 officers will be needed to man that. That's doing the regular jobs and the extra jobs of security for that. We're going to have nowhere near that. So I'm just letting you all like know that it's not that like that extra money. Like, do we need an extra helicopter? Do we need all that stuff? Great. I think we should cut the budget like everybody else had their budget cut on certain things. But if they talk about cutting it for hiring, it's not going to be me that's going to be affected. It's going to be you all that's going to be affected. It's I don't live right here, you know. So, but I know I love a lot of you. Like, you know, I know they're like friends of mine. So I don't want to see anything happen to you all. I just want to make sure that you know that we need to constantly hire because these huge gaps have been there that we don't have enough officers. And when you have an officer who's now way overworked, you're going to have more discipline issues where, you know, they're going from call to call to call without a break, and they're short stroking every call because, you know, they can't finish it up right. And now they're going to be less trained because they're more out in the field constantly. So you need to keep that healthy balance of the number of officers we have. Now we have 10,000 right now. Truly, we need about 13,000. You know, and that's what they're talking about before. So, you know, at least keep that in mind with everything that, like I said, I don't need tons of overtime. We don't need any of that stuff. But we do need the number of officers that keep coming to fill you for 10 years from now, 20 years from now. You know, that's a big part of that.
Great. Keith, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, for talking with us. Along the lines, how you were saying that the amount of training differs from department to department across the country. Does that same would apply for discipline? You know, the officer that had the knee down, they said he had 18 discipline incidents. Is that number, that seems very high.
Well, you know, it depends. Like I tell you, like, so like I said, the lady who said myself and I'm basically a Martian took her ovaries, right? There's a difference between discipline and complaints. Like, I don't know what their wording is, you know? So like, if you look at how many complaints I have probably like 60, 70 complaints. You know, I've been a street cop forever. So like, I've had people complain to me that I shouldn't have given them a speeding ticket, you know, that, hey, I shouldn't have shut down their party. They'll make a complaint. The LAPD will take that complaint. So I don't know how their wording goes. And so like, it's hard to, you know, for me to address that. Like, you know, if it was just, they truly were found guilty that they did something wrong, or just complaints against that officer. Because we have officers that do 2 years in the streets, go inside and never will get another complaint. So you can't compare me with that officer. You know, you're not going to get a complaint when you're pushing paper around compared to somebody like me who's been shot at 3 times and I've dealt with gang members, everything else you can imagine, parolees, sex offenders, and whatever you can imagine. So, you know, you can't put our numbers up to each other. Like I said, so I don't know exactly their wording in Minneapolis for that. But like, yeah, you know, I see a lot of these departments, like I said, where I visit my sister in Kentucky, and I just, you know, shooting the stuff with the officer, I just have a conversation with them, and I was surprised their lack of training there. And, you know, they work by themselves in a car most of the time because the smaller agencies have to do that. So it's, you know, I was nervous for those officers because their lack of training. But you know, California, we have a standardized training. The busier city you work, the more training you get because the more stuff you see. So I can't speak for Minneapolis's training, but I can guarantee they don't have anywhere near what we have. And they all need that. You know, that's something that, to me, if the federal government was going to step in on something, they should have a mandated, you know, at least standard of training that everybody has to live up to. It would make it a lot better for you and I when we're doing road trips or whatever trip, knowing that the police on every state we're visiting has at least the minimal amount of training that they should have, right? I mean, that would make sense.
Hey, Sean, can I ask you one last question?
Yes, please.
So, we are, for better or for worse right now in a national conversation, not just
Right.
here in LA, but nationwide, of police reform, decreasing budgets, stuff like that. And I understand that can get, it can sound insulting for the mayors and stuff, but, you come from a great precinct here in LAPD. But if we are talking about maybe changing stuff for reform, is there anything that you feel like, even if it's not being discussed right now, it would be nice if that was maybe reformed, or if it's something in the North Hollywood division you'd like to spread to other departments? Is there anything that you feel being proactive that you would love to see come out of this?
Yeah, I would like to see younger officers when they start their career, maybe doing like a tour with me, like the one or two months working with more of an officer that, that deals with this type of stuff, going out there. And because you go from the academy where you learn all your tactics and all this other stuff, come out there, but maybe that year after they complete their probation, being assigned to maybe the senior lead office or the community relations office, that helps out a lot. Because as an officer, as a new cop, you get looked at every time you're eating. You start feeling different because the public treats you different, And then but it's nice to get out there and break bread with people and talk with people and whatever community you're working with. I wish that would happen more. And then
So more of like a mentor apprenticeship kind of situation?
That's exactly a mentor. That's the right wording for it. I think that would be fantastic. Then the officer could go about their career whatever way they're going to go. But yeah, I think that's needed. It's because you would think that sometimes the worst complaint I get is my house is getting broken into, the car's getting broken. But sometimes it's just because, hey, that car's been parked there forever, and the guy's running an auto shop out of his place. I just want that towed. That's the most important thing to that person. And it's from person to person, and you get to learn that being a senior lead officer, that not everybody has the same needs in the public. You'd be surprised that what's tolerated for somebody is just not for the other. And as a senior lead officer, it really opens your eyes to that. And just like I said, just having sit down conversations like I get to do with all of you. I get down and I get to have something to eat with you. We have refreshments. We get to talk about normal conversation, which a lot of times officers don't get to do that until multiple years into their career. And I think that's super helpful, super helpful, especially if the officer has no idea about that type of environment they moved into. Like we have officers from out of state, and all of a sudden they move into Hollywood division, which we all know is, for us, might be normal. But if you're from Wyoming as a cop, that is, might as well be on another planet. So like, having that experience is really good to get out there and talk and mingle with people a little bit on a way, not just being in the uniform type of thing.
Great. Well, Sean, thank you so much. We'll let
Thanks
you
for
go.
having me.
Yeah. Thank you for being generous with your time and talking.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. So anytime you guys need me, please let me know. And please all be safe, and please just be good neighbors to each other. Watch out for each other. That's the best thing we can do. Studio City leads the ways for sure. I'm not just saying that, they really do. So thank you very much, everybody.
Great.
Nice
Thank you
night.
so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And Randy, do you want to speak towards the other guests?
Sure.
Unfortunately, not here, but.
Yeah, sure. I'll speak just for a couple minutes. So first of all, I think actually the last thing that Sean said kind of actually dovetails perfectly into what my guest was planning on saying. Jeffrey Estes, he wanted me to first apologize that he couldn't join us. Jeffrey works as kind of a mover and a shaker and a connector in the African-American community, and works with a number of celebrities and a few foundations. And he and I have known, and most importantly, a friend of mine for over 20 years. And he and I were speaking recently about things that were happening. And as the SCNC quickly kind of started to talk to some of us about having a town hall, and as Brian said at the beginning, should we have a town hall, and what would it look like, and what should we talk about, what topics should we perhaps avoid? I started to reach out to people in the African-American community that I've either worked with or that I know, because as Rajuka had mentioned, while certainly we have African-Americans that are in our immediate community, actually one of my neighbors, by and large, this is a white community. And I was reminded of and so in talking with Jeffrey and reaching out to a few other people, I was reminded of a conversation that happened with Bishop Ulmer. Bishop Ulmer is the faith leader for Faithful Central, which is one of the largest Black churches in Los Angeles. And someone asked him the question of, as we see this civil unrest and the issue of age-old racism being addressed in this country, someone asked Bishop Omer, what would the Black community want from other communities? And Bishop Omer recounted what he says when people come to him after experiencing the tragic death of a loved one, and just coming to him in tears. And that he often responds to them by saying, I have no words that can change this. I can offer you my heart, and can I cry with you? And he led from that to say what he would want from other communities is for other communities, which I think we've seen peacefully throughout Studio City, that we open our hearts, we do more of that, that we cry with them, that we march with them, and that maybe most of all, we engage and get to know them because they are us. And I think that was probably the most enduring message that I've heard, or whether it was speaking with people from the NAACP, the Urban League, Black Lives Matter, that we should not be, we are understandably distracted and first and foremost in many ways concerned with looting and with damage to businesses and private property. And one thing that was said to me by a couple of people was, you know, I've heard from a lot of, she said, I've heard from a lot of people that what happened to George Floyd was horrible, reprehensible. I don't condone it, but the looting has to stop. And she said, perhaps you should change the idea to say, to be the looting and the damage of property is horrible, but the murder and the racism that exists, that is what has to stop. And I thought it was an interesting twist of a phrase, a turn of a phrase. So this is really, I would say, what the message is. And I would hope that perhaps this will be something that SCNC as a community, if we think it's valuable, I certainly do. And I think a number of you do as well, just from what I've seen in our community, it's so beautiful, is spending time to get to know the other communities that represent this incredible city that we're all a part of, that we all care about so deeply. And that we should hopefully, as besides staying safe, very important, that we, as Sean said in his closing, I'll close with the same, that we're good neighbors to each other, that we see if we see our neighbors, to see that they're okay, and that they are equal with us. And that's what I would close with.
Always.
I think that's a good message.
I see a hand up.
Raduca.
Yes. So Randy, we know the sort of the racism in many forms is covert, that a lot of the conversations that we have, even unknowingly, right? I'm not saying that conscious racism, but that somehow there is this filter, and the more we are surrounded of the same kind, then, you know, information comes and goes. Where do you see as a vice president that, you know, what can we do as a forum, you know, the neighborhood council, where it becomes less theoretical, where yes, becoming friends with your neighbor, it sounds really beautiful, but you know, when, and my questions were not quite that open to Sean, because I don't know him and I don't want to make his life harder, but a lot of rumors on social media, and in particular, the focus on looting and protecting ourselves from it as a community, as businesses. I wonder how much of that carried this covert racism, because ultimately, you know, so I'm kind of emotional, because even as I look at faces that show up, a lot of them are not actually having videos on. I saw basically one person you know, African American. And I was really curious to find out his take on this, but listening to us, the focus was, so again, I don't want to appear that I'm criticizing, far from it. I just sort of literally want to understand moving forward if there are more practical ways in which we can
Sure. So I would say two things. First of all, African American gentleman you saw was actually Jeffrey Estes. That was who I was hoping we would get the difference.
Oh wow!
He
Okay.
had a technical difficulty, so yes, he did exist. You could see him. It wasn't me just saying that I know someone. That's number one. And number two, you know, I think there are practical things, but I also think it depends on. So as a civic body, right? I think that we. There are, and as you probably know, there are some that would say we have to wade carefully into this subject because we represent everyone, which means we represent people that aren't necessarily going to share our views or our approach. So in that sense, I would say what it looks like for each individual varies. I would also say that in practical terms, for example, in the future would be from, for example, cultural affairs. And they have an event going on right now, and I applaud them for putting an event on during COVID-19 because that presents unique challenges. But perhaps that some of the topics that are covered moving forward, if it's what we as the SCNC decide and ultimately what our community would love to see, are events that actually look more cultural and maybe are willing to address harder topics. I think that having hard conversations is important, but having hard conversations takes work, and it takes a certain sensitivity that I think we are not always willing to have, and so they end up being theoretical. You know, if I had my way, I would say, sure, why don't we all go one Sunday, go down to Faithful Central, like I do with my family, like on Martin Luther King weekend, and I sit amongst the congregation. This is a church that has 3 services every Sunday, 2,000 people at each service. So here I come, nice little Hispanic Jewish family, rolls down into the inner city, goes to this incredible church service. I clearly stick out, and I love it. And I love it because I get to experience something that I don't experience, right? I don't, you go to synagogue, no one's testifying. They might be in the back talking with each other, but no one's raising their hand and moved and singing. So getting a sense of just even how they look at faith and just getting to know someone. Just as Sean said, again, I'll go back to Sean, which is to just break bread with someone and getting to know them. So that way we don't see them as them, we see them as us. And so I know some of that perhaps sounds lofty, but I think that everyone has to do what's comfortable for them. I'm not in a position or wish to be to preach how people need to reach out to the quote unquote other and how to address implicit bias. These are things that I wish I could, but I'm not a dictator. I can only hope that people would want, because ultimately we have more in common than we oftentimes think. But I agree with you. I would hope, so to answer your question directly though, I think cultural affairs will be a direct way, hopefully moving forward, that if the SCNC, we can talk about it.
I guess outreach and alliances with other neighborhood councils across the city where the population is more representative. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Lana? You're mute. There you go.
Go ahead, Lana.
Hi. So just to address some of the activities or events that have been sponsored in the past, because of my involvement from 10 years ago, it seemed that there were some really great, solid programs that were established, and yet over the years have just disappeared for one reason or another. I would really like to encourage these events more often, whatever form they take, using any of the facilities and the venues that we have at our disposal, because an ongoing interaction with our community is what's going to help us. It's a continuation. It's not just one really great event a year or 3 really big events. It's a continual thing. You know, if we had the capacity or the ability, maybe Nancy, we get some of those volunteers to participate with us in some of these community events and try to launch it. It would be very ambitious, but maybe once a quarter. You know, if you could do more than that, that would be pretty amazing. I think you can do some simple programs to offset some of your bigger events, but it does take a good amount of planning and thought, and I believe that really is a nice way, as you say, to bring people together. If there's food, great. We don't know, depending on our new rules with the COVID. But I think once we get back to being able to have a congregation, if you will, of our community and our residents, maybe we can come up with some really lovely and engaging, fun events.
Agreed. Let's go to Allie.
Love the discussion that's happening. I think that I worry that there's an inherent issue to be looked at from the Studio City Neighborhood Council, and that is there isn't an oversight, because I've checked into it. There's no cultural competency. There's nothing to train neighborhood councils in how to be more sensitive culturally. And because most of the board is primarily white, that is the culture that is presented. And I don't see the outreach in our community. We do have diversity. We don't seem to be doing outreach to the full community. And I think part of that is and you all know, I'll get off of Luminaria, I think it's super culturally insensitive. And I think that we don't have anyone to train us or train the SCNC. And so therefore, something that we might think is nice might be cultural appropriation. Something we think is nice and historic might be wildly offensive and diminishing. So I don't know how to solve that, but before we do outreach, I'd like to make sure that it actually uplifts human beings and does not diminish them. Sorry, my voice is cracking. I'm very passionate about this.
No, thank you so much. And I would say that passion is ultimately what we want. I mean, I think that for those that are that have become involved with the SCNC, for actually everyone who's even tuned in, arguably at dinner time, although not a lot of restaurants are open, to tune in means there's some level of care and some level of passion. And so all jokes aside, I do appreciate it. And I think that what you're bringing up are the very tough conversations that I think we need to have. And I think sometimes, like any organization, organizations sometimes fall into a rut of we're doing this, whatever this is, because this is what we've always done. And sometimes that's why, right, the idea of new blood, young blood, a fresh look, fresh ideas, someone from the outside coming in. And you raise a good idea, and I'm happy to bring that up, or we're happy to bring that up, I think, to the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, to Raquel Beltran, who is the general manager of Dunn. She's new to the position, and I know I was actually in conversation with her earlier this week, and I'm speaking to her again actually next week on other matters, but I'm sure that I know that she has a lot of ideas and things that she wants to implement in the department of within amongst all the neighborhood councils. And so perhaps that's one of them. Perhaps that aside from ethics training and other things, there could be something about cultural.
That would be awesome. The marginalized communities are not honored in many ways.
But I also don't want to shortchange, I think, the people that are now on the board, because I think also it's possible that they may actually very much share your view. It's just that we've never really engaged in that conversation. So I think that should we engage in that type of conversation, I think that we will see, we can see some of the very changing and increased sensitivity that you are speaking of. I can say that there, when an issue of potential racism has come up, or issues concerning some racist things, I can tell you that myself, along with a handful of my colleagues, and I'm sure all of them, these types of things get addressed, taken seriously, addressed in a formal way, and so
Great, because I have not.
Oh.
Repeat that. Sorry.
I said I am confident that we can move the ball forward towards some of the issues you want addressed.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Let's go to Lana.
Hi. Well, I do believe that there is a guideline by the Department of Empowerment. When we use our funds for events, it must be for the entire community. So that is what I understand. It has to be welcoming of everyone. That's kind of the guideline is all I know, is that it does have to welcome everyone, and everyone has to have an opportunity to attend and participate before they approve the funds for an event.
I think what Allison is bringing up, though, is more in the how. I mean, how are we welcoming people? How are we framing an event? And is of course, it's city funds have to be the way they are appropriated. It has to be for something that is quote unquote for all of Studio City.
Mm-hmm.
But if we are inviting everyone to something, by definition, we've made it available to everyone. But if the very thing that we're inviting people to is in its content is insensitive in some way, I think that's what Allison is, not that I.
Well, sure. That is our job. I mean, we are a government organization, right? And there are those rules, and we all have to take the test for, ethics and things like that. So, I gotta say, when we put the right folks in the positions of those committees, the chairs, I believe that we will see a lot better product come out of what we want, right?
Well, I think I agree, but I think my response to that would also be, there are 24 people in watching this now. There were, I had 29 a little earlier. What I would say is, if you're watching this, we'd love to see you and get involved. I think that it's not because, remember, I think it's also worth noting the people on some of these committees are some of the only people that also raise their hand.
Absolutely. We need more, and we need to also, as our community, try to encourage the folks instead of pushing their good talents and skills away from us. Right? It would help if we were a lot more welcoming to our folks who want to volunteer and participate.
I don't disagree with you, and I don't disagree with you. I think we can always improve in how we welcome people and how we engage with people. I think as well that the SCNC has made some incredible strides actually during COVID-19. A subset of those of us on the board,
right,
who really stepped up, really got out there, really engaged with not only with each other but engaged the community, and we saw the results. Nancy, was what, 80 volunteers, upwards of 80, right? These are people largely we didn't even know. Then Feed Folks, we had a ton of volunteers, people coming in on their wedding anniversary just to help the community. So I think the passion is there. I think the talent is there. I think the challenge, the rubber meets the road sometimes, is, but are you willing to raise your hand and help out if it's not a major catastrophe? Are you willing to help on the week to week, to the month to month? I I think the commitment is there too. But I think that is also where the bigger challenge lies. And maybe through having some of these more real conversations, we'll get there, because what we're saying will resonate more with our community, and people will want to jump on board and join us and make this community of ours better.
Great. Let's, Melanie.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question first, and maybe seem weird, but it's germane. Who's the renters representative on the board right now?
We have three. One of them is myself. It's Lana Shackelford. And then who's the third?
Me, I'm
Jesse
here.
Jesse Porter, I believe.
Jesse Porter. Yeah, that's right. He's the third.
Okay, cool. I want to point out that the website doesn't have a list of board members or who's representing who. There's not even a list of board members, much less this board member is the residential rep, the homeowners rep, the business rep, the renters rep.
There's a list of board members actually, because I remember typing that up and putting it up there, but you're right, there's no representative, and I'm not on the board. I just did that.
Yeah.
So if you go to About Us.
I see About Us. Yeah, I'm looking
and then
at
go to the link that says board members and officers.
Board member. Oh, there it is down there. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. So it doesn't list who's representing what constituencies, which would be helpful.
Great, that's constructive.
People run for representation to represent constituencies, so that should be reflected in that list of board members and officers. I will say that I'm glad we have 3 renters reps, because it's not that long ago that the neighborhood council was very actively looking to disenfranchise renters as board members in Studio City, and that's something that's gone on for a pretty long time. It is, as someone who is a renter but has been in this community for more than 20 years and who is active in the community, I will say that the board is not welcoming of participation in general. It's not easy to find a way in. And it does very much feel like a privileged white space here to defend the values of privileged white people who have chosen to invest in an area that has the best schools and to use their property taxes to pay for that rather than to pay for private school. And that's my experience of the neighborhood council. And if that is indeed reflective of a totality of Studio City, and it also, to be blunt, also in action has reflected the values of people who want very much Studio City to be what it was in 1960 something, somehow magically. And it's frustrating for those of us who may have been born and raised here but don't feel that way. And I'm stubborn, and yet I don't find it welcoming after all these years. And I don't feel it represents the totality of Studio City, particularly not the Studio City I've been seeing in the last week, which has warmed my heart considerably to see the activity and the passion at Laurel and Ventura every night consistently. And that's something that's given me hope, because those are not the expressions that I have seen out of this neighborhood council in the past, and it's not the expression that I see in the way in which we deal as a neighborhood council with the city. So if we want to welcome the diversity that is Studio City, rather than the exclusive club that wants to pretend it's something else, we have a lot of work to do.
Agreed. Let's go back to Allie. You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry. Melanie, great points. I second a lot of what you said. I tried to be in, and boy, did I have to get out. And I am white, whiter than white. Here is something that I want to put out there, because the checks and balances, I checked with Don, I checked with offices that are higher up. There really isn't a cultural training, and the volunteers are who the volunteers are. And God bless, listen, I really appreciate the board and the work that you do. I really do. My husband's on the board. He's not here tonight. So that said, if we need to become more aware of how we welcome, I was down at that protest today. It was amazing. If we need to grow in our awareness, I'm not sure how we do that as a board who is primarily white, because there are things that we need to learn. When there's no cultural competency training, when Krikorian's office can't help either, when Dunn has nothing to offer, because I called and asked about Luminaria and there's no checks and balances. So that really would be up to us. And I'm not sure how we do that, but I want to just put that out there to plant the seed of how do we do that? How do we, if we're trying to invite our diverse neighbors, how do we even learn how to appropriately ingratiate them? I don't know. And I just want to plant that seed.
Can we ask Jessica? I saw her earlier. I don't know if she's still present. Can you respond to this, Jessica?
I don't think
I
she's still on.
don't see Jessica.
Not there? Okay.
Yeah. Lana, you want to take it away? We got, I think, 9 more minutes on this call. I'm not sure again what happens after that.
Okay. I'm going to put my hand. Oh, you put my hand down. Oh, yeah. Hey. Okay, great. I was going to address Melanie. Hi, Melanie, as a renter. This is a little bit off the track, but since Melanie, you identified yourself as a renter, and if you are interested in chatting more, I've been talking with the other renter representatives and our land use chair in developing an ad hoc committee under land use that would have renters who are interested in participating, and possibly property owners, we would invite them as well to come together so we can share information. I believe right now is very critical because of the situation I have found. I've been out to several of the properties during this time and have found that some of our new property owners have not distributed information that was mandated by the housing department that every renter should have received who's under rate stabilization. So those are some of the issues, just lots of things that are going on in my mind. But I was wondering, would you be interested maybe, or want to talk about it later? Maybe come to the neighborhood council Zoom meeting next week, or send me your contact information or something, and we can talk.
I'm happy to provide some input on that. As
I'm looking for members. Yeah, I'm looking for members to be on this committee. So
I'm happy to provide you with input as I can. I have been attempting for 2 years to be a volunteer on the sustainability committee, and as the sustainability liaison for the Sustainability Alliance, and there is no committee that's active, and that's that the board has not been supportive in reactivating it, and Raduca needs help, and we need more membership in that committee, and I've been trying, and it seems like this board doesn't want to have one.
Well, it does
volunteered in addition to be the sustainability, the resilience rep was rebuffed. So, I want to volunteer, but it doesn't feel welcoming. I do have expertise in that area and in others, and I'm happy to be a resource for you and participate as I can in the renters thing as well. But I just wanted to share that experience because it is not a welcoming body.
Well, I do realize that we have a recruitment issue, right? We need to recruit, and with that, when sometimes you're so busy with a lot of the new board members, they're so busy learning what this system is, and it's changing. It's a moving sort of living organization, right? Lots of stuff to process, but we have a recruitment issue. Once we have folks that are coming into our environment here of our community, neighborhood council, and participation, is being able to sustain their level of participation, right? Like, oh, it's great. Oh, you want to volunteer? Well, where do we have something where you can, right? And how do we support that? It's a challenge when you have a new board elected every so often and new members, and they're rotating. We've had a lot of people on this board. How many, I mean, do we have a count, anybody, of how many folks have either moved or left the area that were on the board? We've had at least 4 or more.
I think 4, yeah, 3 or 4, right?
Right, and it gets kind of challenging. So with that, thank you.
I would just, and maybe perhaps as closing, and I appreciate everyone's comments. Oh, I see one hand left, so after Mindy. But I do want to say, Melanie, as one of those newbie board members, I don't want to create an excuse. The words aren't comfortable to hear, but we need to hear them. Because the job is actually, the job is we are supposed to represent you and everyone in this community. Full stop. And so my pledge, that sounds perhaps lofty, but my promise to you is, I can speak only for myself, but and hope my colleagues, I think I see some of them nodding, try to do a better job to see you and hear you and your concerns. And hopefully work together.
Great.
And I think in closing to everyone, I hope that this is the first of many conversations that we can have, whether it's on addressing the issues that all of us care about, whether it is the ongoing issues of homelessness, which is complex, it's tough. The issues of race, it's not a comfortable conversation for some because it's maybe too political, or should we maybe not take a stand, but we should wade into those subjects. We should wade into the issues that are about what is and isn't culturally appropriate for our community. And are we really embracing what the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment really envisioned when they created the neighborhood council system? Hopefully this tonight and a couple of our town halls, but really tonight, I hope you, in the total sum, you'll view as the right step. Maybe it's a baby step, but the right step in the right direction. Thank you for Mindy, I'd love to hear from you. And then after that, Brian, if you want, we'll close it out.
Yeah, let's cut it off there. We'll close it out. I think that's good. So Mindy, go ahead. Mindy? Mindy, you still there?
Mute. You gotta unmute.
You gotta unmute if you're there.
Hello?
There you go. Is that Mindy?
Oh, she was there.
Oh my God.
Oh, there you go.
Here, look, you gotta unmute. We almost got you there. There you go. I think you're unmuted.
Hello? It's because I'm
Yay.
on Laurel Canyon. I'm on Laurel Canyon. Can you hear me now? I'm sorry
Yes.
that I feel bad every time I come to the neighborhood council, and it's sadly not for that many things. So I just wanted to say the only thing, I wasn't trying to not hear all these because I'm really new, is that I have had good experience with people that I've met. I feel like it's a bummer that I only go when I need something. It's like the once-a-year Jew to temple when I go, but I have had really bad experiences with the council office, and I know she got off, but I feel like when you have a bad experience with that office, it doesn't come back in, but I've never felt that with the council. So maybe people just need to get to know you. We need to come to meetings because we need to participate, and that's how we also get to meet you. So I think it's both sides. That's all I want to say.
Well, certainly there's always room for growth as well. But
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that said, I mean, thank you everyone for joining me. Randy, thank you so much for your thoughtful comments on this. And everyone, just, thank you for having this conversation. Stay safe. There's no curfew order tonight, but still stay safe nonetheless. And I want to echo Randy. We hope to do more of these soon. We'll just keep you up to date on when they're coming up. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.